Today we're diving into something absolutely extraordinary that's happening right now in space. Something that has scientists, astronomers, and space agencies around the world on high alert. We're talking about 3I Atlas, an interstellar object that some researchers are saying might be trying to communicate with us. Now, I know that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but stick with me, because what's happening here is real, it's verifiable, and it has profound implications for humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. Before we get into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you're not going to want to miss any updates on this developing story. Let me start by explaining what 3I Atlas actually is, because understanding the object itself is crucial to grasping why this situation is so unprecedented. In the simplest terms, 3I Atlas is what astronomers call an interstellar object, meaning it didn't originate in our solar system. It came from somewhere else in the galaxy, traveling through the vast emptiness of space for who knows how long before entering our cosmic neighborhood. This isn't the first interstellar object we've detected. You might remember Oumuamua back in 2017, that cigar-shaped object that caused a huge stir in the scientific community. Then there was 2I Borisov in 2019, which was clearly identified as an interstellar comet. But 3I Atlas is different. It's very, very different, and the differences are what have everyone talking. The object was first detected by the Atlas telescope system in Hawaii, which is specifically designed to scan the skies for potentially hazardous asteroids and comets. When astronomers first spotted 3I Atlas, they immediately noticed something odd about its trajectory. It wasn't following the kind of orbit you'd expect from a typical comet or asteroid, even an interstellar one. The path it was taking through our solar system suggested it had been making course corrections, subtle changes in direction that couldn't be explained by gravitational interactions with the sun or planets. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let me be clear. Scientists are extremely careful about making extraordinary claims. The first assumption was that these trajectory changes were due to outgassing, which is when a comet releases jets of gas and dust as it gets heated by the sun. And those jets can act like little rocket thrusters, changing the object's path. This is a well-understood phenomenon, and it's been observed countless times. But here's where things get interesting. When astronomers analyze the spectroscopic data from 3I Atlas, looking at the light it reflects and emits to determine its composition, they found something unexpected. The object doesn't show the typical signatures of outgassing that you'd expect from a comet. There's no visible coma, which is that fuzzy cloud of gas and dust that surrounds an active comet. There's no tail streaming behind it. The chemical signatures don't match what we see from known comets. So if it's not outgassing causing these trajectory changes, what is? This is the question that has been driving researchers crazy for months now. Then came the radio signals. Several radio telescope arrays around the world, including the Very Large Array in New Mexico and the Parkes Observatory in Australia, began detecting unusual radio emissions coming from the vicinity of 3I Atlas. Now, space is full of natural radio emissions. Pulsars, quasars, even planets in our own solar system emit radio waves. But the signals associated with 3I Atlas have characteristics that are difficult to explain through known natural processes. They appear to have structure, patterns that repeat at regular intervals. Some researchers have described them as having the hallmarks of artificial signals, though I want to stress that this is highly controversial and far from confirmed. Let me walk you through what we know about these signals because the details matter enormously. The primary signal is a repeating burst that occurs approximately every 11.3 hours. The burst itself lasts for about 47 seconds each time, and within that 47-second window, there's a complex pattern of pulses at different frequencies. Some teams analyzing the data have suggested that the frequency patterns correspond to mathematical constants, things like pi and the golden ratio, which would be incredibly unlikely to occur naturally. Other researchers are more skeptical, pointing out that humans are pattern-seeking creatures and we have a tendency to see meaning in random noise, a phenomenon known as pareidolia. It's the same reason we see faces in clouds or hear words in random sounds. The debate within the scientific community right now is absolutely fierce. On one side, you have researchers who believe we need to seriously consider the possibility that 3I Atlas is an artificial object, possibly a probe from an extraterrestrial civilization. They point to the trajectory anomalies, the radio signals, and the fact that the object's size and shape, as best we can determine from the limited data available, don't quite match natural objects we've studied before. On the other side, you have scientists who argue that we're seeing a natural phenomenon we simply don't understand yet, and that jumping to the extraterrestrial conclusion would be a massive leap without sufficient evidence. They remind us that throughout history, phenomena that seemed mysterious at first, like pulsars when they were first discovered, turned out to have natural explanations once we understood them better. So what does all of this mean for humanity? Well, regardless of whether 3I Atlas turns out to be natural or artificial, the implications are profound. If it's a natural object exhibiting behaviors we've never seen before, that means there are physical processes in the universe we don't yet understand. It would push the boundaries of our knowledge about how matter behaves in the extreme conditions of interstellar space, how objects form in other solar systems, and what kinds of exotic phenomena might exist out there in the cosmos. Every time we discover something that doesn't fit our current models, it's an opportunity to expand our scientific understanding and potentially unlock new technologies or insights. But if, and this is a very big if, 3I Atlas turns out to be artificial, if it really is some kind of message or probe from another civilization, then we're talking about one of the most significant moments in human history. It would be definitive proof that we are not alone in the universe, that intelligent life exists beyond Earth, and that other civilizations have achieved the technological capability to send objects or messages across interstellar distances. Think about what that would mean. Every assumption we've had about our uniqueness in the cosmos would need to be reconsidered. Our philosophies, our religions, our sense of our place in the grand scheme of things, all of it would be transformed in an instant. The question that's been coming up repeatedly in discussions about 3I Atlas is this: if it is a message, what is it trying to tell us? Some researchers have been attempting to decode the radio signals, treating them as if they might contain information. It's painstaking work because we don't know what kind of encoding scheme an alien civilization might use. How do you create a message that could be understood by a species you've never met, that might have completely different mathematics, physics understanding, or even sensory experiences? This is actually a problem that scientists have thought about extensively in the context of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The general consensus has been that mathematics and physical constants are probably universal, so any message would likely be built around those concepts. Some of the preliminary analysis of the 3I Atlas signals suggests they might contain information about the object's origin point, potentially including coordinates in the galaxy where it came from. There's also speculation that the signals might include information about the civilization that sent it, assuming there is one, or perhaps instructions on how to respond or where to look for additional information. But all of this is highly speculative at this point. We're essentially trying to read a book written in a language we don't know, based on an alphabet we don't understand, about concepts that might be completely foreign to us. What's particularly fascinating, and frankly a bit frustrating for the scientific community, is that 3I Atlas is already leaving our solar system. It made its closest approach to the Sun several months ago and is now heading back out into interstellar space. Every day that passes, it gets farther away, and the signals get weaker and harder to detect. There's a very real possibility that within a few months we won't be able to observe it at all anymore. This has created an enormous sense of urgency among researchers who want to gather as much data as possible while we still can. Several proposals have been put forward to send a spacecraft to intercept 3I Atlas, or at least get close enough to study it in detail. The problem is that interstellar objects move incredibly fast. 3I Atlas is traveling at speeds that make it extremely challenging to catch up to with our current propulsion technology. Even our fastest spacecraft would take years or even decades to reach it, and by that point it would be so far from the sun that solar panels wouldn't work, making it difficult to power instruments. There are some advanced propulsion concepts like laser-pushed light sails or nuclear thermal rockets that could theoretically do the job, but those technologies are still in development and would require years to prepare for a mission. The international response to the 3I Atlas situation has been interesting to watch. Space agencies from around the world, including NASA, the European Space Agency, China's CNSA, and others, have been coordinating their observations and sharing data, which is wonderful to see. There have also been numerous calls for caution about how we respond, if indeed a response is appropriate. Some scientists and ethicists have argued that if this is a message from another civilization, humanity needs to carefully consider whether we should respond, what we should say, and who has the authority to speak on behalf of our entire species. These are questions without easy answers. There's also been a push for transparency in how information about 3I Atlas is shared with the public. In the past, there have been concerns that if we ever did detect signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, governments might try to keep it secret or control the flow of information. So far, the astronomical community has been admirably open about their observations and findings, publishing papers and sharing data freely. This transparency is crucial because something of this magnitude affects all of humanity, not just scientists or particular nations. From a practical standpoint, what does this mean for you, for average people living their lives on Earth? In the short term, probably not much changes in your day-to-day existence. But the long-term implications could be enormous. If we confirm that we're not alone, it could accelerate investment in space exploration and technology. It could change how we think about protecting Earth and preserving our civilization. It could inspire a new generation of scientists, engineers, and explorers. It might even help unite humanity around common goals and a shared sense of wonder about the universe. The story of 3I Atlas is still unfolding. New observations are being made every day, new analyses are being published, and new theories are being proposed. We're living through what could be one of the most important scientific developments in history, and we won't know the full significance for months or maybe years. What we do know is that the universe is far stranger and more complex than we imagined, and objects like 3I Atlas remind us that we've only just begun to explore and understand the cosmos around us.